at the social psychological aspect of love. Mainly, we'll look at the theories of attraction. So last time we talked about the neurobiological aspect of relationship, but in psychology, it's always the interaction between the nature and nurture, which is the physiological aspect and psychological aspect. So today, we're gonna look at social psychology. Quick definition, social psychology is a scientific study of how human thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by other people, situations, perceptions, and places, and they can be actual, imagined, or implied. So our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are driven primarily by our nature and nurture, our genes, hormones, or our upbringing, parenting styles by our parents, and other experiences. So let's take a piece of paper and write this answer down on your piece of paper. So what kind of people, attributes, and quality that you are attracted to? Okay, does anyone would like to volunteer and share?
I'll go first.
Okay, Howard.
Yeah.
Go first.
So the quality or characteristic I wrote are warm, rational, mature, compassionate, optimistic.
Very good qualities. Alejandra, do you want to share?
I couldn't. Okay, so I wrote a few, but someone who's kind, analytical, charismatic, honest, and all good qualities. Like, I don't know, a good person.
Nice, nice. Good job, guys. So here are the questions that we want to answer. So can we predict who we will be ending up with? And if so, can we determine that? Can we alter that? So let's answer these questions with psychology of attraction. So the fundamental basic of attraction is rewards. So we are attracted to those whose presence are rewarding to us, that makes us feel good. And rewards can be noticeable rewards and indirect rewards. So the more direct rewards can be their attention, approval, acceptance, or if they have pleasing personality, good looking, or the feel-good chemical that we talked about last time, or even career opportunities. And also for indirect benefits, can think of it as something that's very long-term. So it can be the potential of marriage, or they offer advantages for your offspring to thrive, so your babies. So the reason why we have attraction is rewards, and that's the most fundamental. And now we look at what are the things that are rewarding to us. So the first one is proximity. So proximity theory believes that we like those who are nearby to us, and proximity is rewarding and very convenient, and distance is costly. And this distance and proximity can be portrayed as physical and psychological closeness with someone, like emotional intimacy, and someone who lives nearby in the same city with you. There's a term called functional distance, is how likely you and this person will come into contact with each other. So the cost of distance, for example, travel, they become the counter variable. So we talked about that with the first series of relationship, you know, the outcome, the social exchange theory. So the distance can be the variable that will lower our current outcome beneath our comparison level, especially during the phase when a relationship is without any commitment. So let's look at this MIT dorm studies. And this study proposed a propinquity effect, which is, you can think of it as repeated contact. So in this study, the independent variable is to randomly assign 270 residents to 17 different buildings, to different rooms like these. And the dependent variable is to see how likely friendship will occur in relation to their room proximity to each other. And the finding of this study is the chances that the students will become more friends are very closely related to the distance between their rooms. So let's take a closer look at the results. So as we can see, those who are one door away, the chances of them to become friends is 41%. And as we can see, as the distance become further and further, the chances will significantly decrease. So there's a cliche saying that familiarity breeds contempt is actually not true. So even a small distance has a large influence on our relationship that most of us can realize. And this is what surprised me a lot, because some small distance may seem not so significant, but this study shows that 4 doors away, which is 88 feet apart, and they're only a quarter likely, 25%, to become friends with those who are in the same room with each other. So, and another theory is called mere exposure effects, which is we tend to like those who are familiar with, and repeated contact increase our liking for each other. And we tend to develop a strong preference towards those who we are familiar with. So let's look at another study. It's a between subject design. I have no more time to explain what's between subject, but so independent variable is they have different Confederate students, so the college women, to show up to classes. So there's 3 groups. Actually 4 groups. Those who never show up, those who showed up to classes 5 times, 10 times, and 15 times with no interactions, just showing up to classes. And then the methods is they show the participants who are naive participants, the pictures of these women, and they ask this naive participant to rate how much they like the Confederate students, which is these women. And the dependent variable, so that's the dependent variable. And the results is actually, as you can see, the more they show up to classes, even with no interactions, they tend to rate these women more likable. So I'm sure you guys have all heard of this concept, hard to get, as a strategy for some people to attract people. But does it really work? The answer is no, don't play hard to get. So this is another concept of attraction theories, is reciprocity. So we tend to like those who like us back because rejection hurts. But in another case, when hard to get actually works, is we play hard to get selectively, which means that we make ourselves hard to get to those who we don't want to be with, but we make ourselves available to those who are actually the people that we like. Yes. and being a difficult catch for everyone but the person you're trying to attract. And continual rejection is likely to lead the one whoever's trying to pursue you to lose your interest and lower the perceived probability of acceptance. And people who are shy or those who have a low self-esteem, they will nervously expect more rejection from others. So they actually pursue less desirable partners. Matching hypothesis is people tend to date and marry other people of similar attractiveness. Even though we all like attractive people, but the possibility of rejections makes us more realistic when we're trying to match with other people. So another factors that we might grow attraction is barrier, liking those who we cannot have. So we may want something that more if we are threatened with losing it. And here's some interesting principles. So the first one is sacrative principle. This is proposed by a professor from Arizona State University. So basically we place higher values on the sacred things instead of abundance. So actually this professor was proposing in an economic sense, but this can also be applied in psychology. So, you know, in the economic sense, for example, we tend to think the limited edition, let's say watch, is more valuable than regular watches. So what does this look like in psychology? For example, the 21 plus drinking age policy can actually cause more desire for underage to drink. Another effect is called Romeo and Juliet effects. So this is talk about adolescence. So parents may be unintentionally making the forbidden partners of their teens more attractive because the way they not allow their kids to not be in relationship with them can actually make them intensify their attraction. And this is a very interesting effect. It's called closing time effect. Is desire but forbidden fruit can seem especially sweet. And here's one demonstration. So in this bar, so there's a study shows that when the bar is about to close, people are actually seen to be more attractive as the time approaches. And another reason can be liking those who we cannot have can be a fear of commitment. So this can explain some people why have the tendency to crush on TAs. And that's just a fun fact, not related to these principles. So another attraction theory is called similarity. We tend to like those who are similar to us, those who are like us. So the saying, birds of a feather flock together is actually correct. So similarity can be seen in demographic, values, attitudes, and personality. So demographic is very easy to understand: age, religion, education, social class, race, or even physical attractiveness. And another fun fact, we're more likely to marry someone who has the same letter initial. If you know Tim and Tiffany, that's one real life example. Or it can be similarity in value. So the more we agree on something, especially the things that we really care about, like religion, there will be more liking. And also similarity in attitudes and personality, such as temperaments. But this is to a lesser degree, so not very dominant. So if those who are more so agreeableness, why did I write this? Anyway, you get the sense. I forgot I wrote this anyway. But you get the hang of it, right? Am I making sense so far? Okay, cool. Here's a point to ponder. So research actually shows the personality between husbands and wives in China are more similar than US couples. So the couples in the US, their personality are less likely to be similar than the couples in China. So my question for you is, do you think this is a good or bad thing when it comes to marital satisfactions, having similar or different personalities?
I'm guessing if the personality of couples are more similar, then like their offsprings will be less diverse.
That's interesting thought. I never thought about how the parents' personality can influence with their offspring.
Because their genes are more similar, and that's what I'm guessing.
Remember, it's always nature and nurture interaction.
Yeah, but for nature part, maybe the gene they share are more identical, more similar.
That's actually a very interesting topic. We can talk more about that in maybe next time when I talk about developmental psychology, and there's a lot to say about that. But yeah, anyone else?
I'm more curious as to why there's this bigger difference in U.S. than China. Like, is there like, did the paper state a reason or like a theory, or like what do you guys think is the reason that there's bigger difference?
That was also the question that I had too. And I was just thinking, just like off the bat, I think the US has a little bit more diversity in ideas, in people, backgrounds. And as we said earlier, in China, there is only one way.
That makes sense. I was actually excited about it.
Yeah. But I also thought, I do wonder too, like, the wives or personalities are more similar in China than they are in the US, but it still means that the personalities in the US are similar, right? It's just not as similar.
Yeah.
I would actually argue that because I think in all different societies, any type of personalities can occur. But you guys are on a very good track. So remember we talked about social psychology at the beginning, that it's about our, actual, observable traits, differences, personality, but also there's another concept of perception. So people may seem similar or different on the outside, but we can look at the perception. So to answer this question, so we can see in China, a common value is group harmony, which is collectivism. So it's actually a good thing to have group harmony. But in the US, on the other hand, US would celebrate individualism. So it seems more likable when people are different. So similar values is actually playing a bigger role here than similar personalities. So in China, they have similar personality, and US couple, they seem to have different personality, but they are both in their own case appears to be similar because the US couples, they are similar in their core values, which is individualism. Does that make sense?
I've I also want to bring up another point. I'm not sure if it's true in America, but I feel like in China or in Taiwan or any Asian country, when we talk about marriage, parent is a very important factor of this topic. Like if my parent they don't like my girlfriend, then I'm like less likely to get married with her, or a girl will less likely to get married with her boyfriend. Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's kind of related to this phenomenon.
Okay, that's very interesting. Actually, Howard, I think your way of thinking is more like from not from social psychology, but from developmental psychology, which is very interesting because how parenting style can affect the way that we turn out. But we'll definitely cover that in developmental psychology. I think that's a very good point to explore. But actually, I'm surprised because my parents is not like that. But okay. Now, so we just looked at, similarity will attract, but why do we always hear this phrase opposite attract? So are we more attracted to each other when we're less alike? What's your thought on this?
I think you could probably bring this back to your previous slide, where maybe two people maybe like opposites in their personality, but then like fundamentally their values may be very similar.
Yes, you're right off the bat. Yes, that's exactly the reason why. So the simple answer, do opposites really attract? No, but there's some nuances that may make us think that opposites attract. But routinely speaking, we're more content with similarities over differences when it comes to being in a relationship with someone. So now let's look at what are the misleading nuances that can trick us into thinking that opposite attract. Okay, this one a lot, but bear with me. So in this model, it introduces 3 different phases of relationship development, and it introduces our attraction in different stage. So increasing intimacy, we can interpret that this as time goes by, because as time progresses, we have higher intimacy. And then on this is importance of information. So how important role, value, and stimulus play a role in our attraction. So stimulus, it means all the very shallow attribute of someone. For example, our physical appearance, age, race. When we don't know too much about that person, we tend to, our first judgment will be based on these stimulus attributes. So if we look at this graph, so stimulus is here, and this is the very beginning of the relationship. So stimulus is playing the highest role in our attraction to each other. So this is the time that we rule out somebody because of their age or, I don't know, race or whatever, a very shallow attribute. But as time progresses, value actually plays the highest role in our attraction to each other. So value can be our career values, our views on parenting, something that's more internal and it takes a bit more time to discover. And our attractions at this phase will depend on our similarity in our attitudes and beliefs at the core. while as time keep progressing, you guys are getting more serious with some commitment. So role, in this case, is actually playing the highest importance. So at this stage, stimulus and value is no longer important. Think of this phase as, for example, marriage, like a very committed relationship. So role is compatibility, and it's only important though if we find out we have all this role and value and stimulus line up. So if they pass the initial phase and then getting to know you phase, and after that, role is important. And the couples may stay together despite the differences they found out during the marriage, because during the marriage, when you live with somebody, you're gonna find out a lot of things that they are different. For example, your role in the kitchen, who tend to wash dishes more, who tends to cook more. And it seems like the more we get to know somebody, the more we notice the differences. And it seems like opposite attract, but actually they're still similar attract. It's just these are the things that is not as important as value during the intimacy increasing phase and the initial phase, which is the stimulus. So in this case, it may seem like opposite attract, but actually no. Well, another factors. Oh, okay. So I have a question for you again. So in what case we may be attracted to those who are different than us? You can maybe think about your past experience or just take a guess.
Maybe when the person has a certain positive trait that I lack personally.
Oh my goodness, that's very right. This is exactly what's going on. So we tend to like those who we want to become. So it may seem like opposite attract, but they may have a trait that we really want to have, but we don't have yet. And that might cause, attraction. So this is our attraction to those who are very similar to our ideal self. So it's kind of like a mirror. When I look at that person, I see a future self that I really want to become. So it's still similar attract because I'm attracting to my own future self, if that makes sense. But this is a very complex tendency, and sometimes we may feel threatened, especially for males, because they don't want females to outgrow themselves. And when people surpass us, can make us look very bad by comparison. So this requires a little bit of humility. So if they're only just a little bit better than us, and they will offer us encouragement instead of humiliation, so we may be attracted to those who are a little different from us from now. But just make sure this shouldn't be the pure reason that you're attracted to that person. I have a friend came up to me and then she was asking me for advice, and then I quickly figured out that the reason why she's with this guy was because his career is her dream career, and that's the whole reason why she wanted to be with him, because she saw her future self in him. So just be mindful of that. Another nuances that may lead us thinking that opposite may attract is this scenario. So you may seen this in real life. So those who are pairing off with partners that are obviously very different from us. For example, rich old guys marry a lovely young lady. This is kind of actually disturbing, but so they may seem very different if we look at this picture, or different culture, ethnicity, age, social economic status, but actually they are still similar attracts based on their mating preference. So in this case, they have exactly the same mating preference, which is they support trading looks for money and trading money for looks. So they are similar attract because of this preference. So the asset may look very different, but people usually end up with others of same mating values. So though the specific rewards may seem a little different, like money or look, but in the broader sense, they are still similar attracts. So actually a very fun study shows that those who are ugly men, they need to make about $186,000 more in their annual income in order to reach the same amount of inquirers as handsome men. Howard, you're counting numbers. So not very romantic, but you know, fame, wealth, health, talents, those are all the qualities that we use to attract more desirable partners. And then I realized after 3 relationship theories, I taught nothing about single. And I know all of you guys are single, so this slide is attributed to you guys. So have you ever wondered why so many people just keep dating nonstop and some people just hella single all the time? So the bottom line is actually we all desire to love, but what the heck is happening here? So I'll show you some of my research, but just know that this is very generalized and it doesn't apply to all the case. And I'm talking about serial data and the hella single people, so very extreme cases. So for the serial data, they might have what's it called love addiction. So those who are addicted to, you know, constantly to be in a relationship, the main driving force, it could be their insecurity and high dependency on others. So they are not very good at relying on themselves. So they could potentially go crazy and when they face separation. And when that happens, there can be increased controlling and jealousy to prevent. So this could happen in insecure individual, but also not all insecure individuals are like that. Insecure individual might be the opposite, which is hella single all the time. And another reason is they may be in love with the idea of love instead of being in love with their lovers. So they will compromise dating anyone just to be in a relationship. And also, this could be a coping mechanism as they are going through a heartbreak and they will quickly go into a new relationship as a rebound because they don't want to face the actual heartbreak and they will use another person, a new relationship as a distraction. And one of the root cause could be the lacking of a stable self-esteem. So they're not able to see their own values and worth. That's why they need somebody, for example, they need a relationship status. They need someone to validate them. And another reason could be lacking a stable support system. This is the case in my ex-roommate. So she always dated people since she was in 5th grade. And one thing I noticed that she doesn't really have a lot of friends. So this can be a reason why, because they don't have a close communities outside of the relationship. Now let's look at those who are single all the time. So these can be the potential underlying reasons why some people may or may not choose to remain single. So again, this is some extreme cases and overgeneralized and doesn't apply to anyone who's single. So one of the reasons can be undealt trauma from past intimate relationship. It can be with your primary caregiver when you're young, or your past romantic relationship in adulthood. And this could cause people to continue to build up walls. So people may not choose to commit to being single at the beginning, but as they try different relationships and their hearts got broken so many times, so eventually they just give up and building up walls. And because intimacy can arouse their trauma response systems, so they will perceive that actually being single, being alone is a safety choice. So that can be a mechanism to protect themselves. Another reason can be they are already thriving and having a very strong emotional safe haven elsewhere. It can be they have a very strong communities or friends, or some people can have imaginary relationship and having fantasy with their celebrity crush. I do know somebody who's always crushing on celebrity, and she's like single for 24 years. So having imaginary relationship with their celebrity crush can actually make them feel very stable and happy, since people are complex, and if you are having imaginary relationship with somebody, you will never run into conflicts or discomfort. Or it can be having long-term relationship with their therapist, because therapist is probably the closest people that we can have in our lives, people that know us a lot. So that could be a causing reason why they don't seek out for other intimate relationship. Another reason can be the difference of mindset. So those who have a growth mindset and those who have a fixed mindset. So if you have the fixed mindset, you're more likely to, believe that there is someone out there that's meant to be. So they would overly romanticize the one, and they tend to disqualify anyone who they feel like is not the right ones. So they just keep waiting, keep rejecting people, which you can kind of imagine how their relationship status is going to look. And another thing we talked about during the first series of relationship, sunken costs. So sunken costs in this case can be, for example, someone was single for 1 year compared to someone who had been single for 5 years. So the sunken cost to, get out of the single status is a lot greater for people who have been single for 5 years or even longer. So it might cause a little discomfort. They are so used to being single. So these are some of the reasons, but not all the reasons, and not for all people. So to kind of summarize the attraction theories, these are the factors that can cause us to grow attraction to someone. So proximity theory, we tend to like those who are nearby to us, whether it's geographically or psychologically. And mere exposure believe that we tend to like those who are familiar. Familiar breeds comfort. And reciprocity is we tend to like those who we know that they will like us back. And barriers, we tend to like those who we cannot have. And one thing I didn't mention is beauty. I don't think that needs a one slide to explain. I mean, we all like those who are attractive and good looking. But another fun fact, people who are good looking tend to match with people who are good looking. And the last one is similarity attracts. So we like those who are like us. And similarities, it can mean perceived similarity, but not the actual similarity. It depends on what we value more. So if you look at the piece of papers that at the beginning that you wrote, and now you look back, so what kind of people, attributes, and qualities that you're attracted to. And, you know, we ask this question, can we predict those who are the people that we will be ending up with? And if so, can we alter that? What's your answer? I'm curious.
Yes, I think so.
Why?
Because a lot of attributes that you just mentioned, I think that can be altered by us also. So once we alter those attributes or factor, then we can change the potential candidate that we may like fall in love with. Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
You know, where do we look for people by using those principles? I actually agree with you. So, you know, to wrap up my last slides, so the answer, in my opinion, is yes. If you have the answer for this question, so how do I become the person that I'm looking for? And that's it. And also, by the way, this question is for Alejandra, not for me. So yeah, thank you for sticking with me. Actually, I have some questions. So what did you learn the most, and what are the psychological concepts, theories, and principles that you may